Hello, everyone, and welcome to Semiconductor News Decoded. I'm Ty, and I've spent 31 years inside the semiconductor industry. Today's topic, TOCALO, a specialist thermal spray coating manufacturer, posting record profits for 3 consecutive fiscal years. Let me walk you through what's actually going on and why this matters. As always, let me explain this like you're hearing about semiconductors for the very first time. I'll keep the technical jargon to a minimum and lean on everyday analogies. So if you're a specialist watching, please bear with me on the simplifications, just for the early scenes. Here's the news in one sentence. A specialist repair shop for cast iron cookware posted its highest ever sales for the 3rd year in a row. Not a pot manufacturer, a craftsman who applies specialized coatings to worn-out pots and brings them back to life. The reason this craftsman is thriving is simple. High-end restaurants started using enormous quantities of pots all at once. More restaurants, higher utilization, faster wear. And when pots wear out, repair and recoating orders follow. The business flows not to the pot maker, but to the person who fixes them. And this craftsman doesn't open restaurants or make pots. The sole focus is repair and restoration. It may look unglamorous from the outside, but that's exactly where the strength lies. No matter which restaurant becomes the hottest spot in town, no matter which pot maker comes out on top, the repair work never disappears. And this craftsman doesn't open restaurants or make pots. The sole focus is repair and restoration. It may look unglamorous from the outside, but that's exactly where the strength lies. No matter which restaurant becomes the hottest spot in town, no matter which pot maker comes out on top, the repair work never disappears. Here's the single most important takeaway, still in the analogy. As long as the high-end restaurant boom continues, this craftsman's workload keeps growing. How long that boom lasts is the one variable that drives everything else about this business. I'll get into that in the second half of today's video. From here, let me explain how this analogy plays out in the actual semiconductor manufacturing world. TOCALO is a company specializing in thermal spray coating technology. It applies advanced coatings to consumable components inside semiconductor manufacturing equipment, parts known as chamber components, and handles both new supply and regeneration. TOCALO doesn't make the equipment itself. It focuses exclusively on the consumable parts that wear out inside the equipment. Chamber components are repeatedly exposed to plasma and corrosive gases during the manufacturing process. That means they require regular replacement and recoating, and skipping maintenance causes equipment utilization rates and yields to fall. For a fab, no matter how expensive the equipment is, maintaining these consumables is simply non-negotiable. Here's a critical point. Chamber components need to be replaced at very high frequency, every few months, and for some equipment, every few weeks. Modern semiconductor manufacturing equipment is actually designed with this regular replacement in mind. In other words, equipment makers build their machines knowing these parts will be consumed and replaced. That's the structural foundation of TOCALO's business. AI-driven semiconductor demand is expanding. Manufacturers are ramping up equipment investment, and fab utilization rates are rising. Higher utilization means chamber components wear out faster. That drives more orders to TOCALO, and that's what's behind the record profits for 3 consecutive fiscal years. TOCALO was founded in 1978 and has built deep specialization in this field over decades. Thermal spray coating carries high barriers to entry. This isn't something a competitor can simply replicate overnight. It's a textbook example of a niche player with deep roots in a focused domain, and companies like this tend to carry resilient earning structures through economic cycles. Let me share my own perspective. What I find most valuable about TOCALO's story is what it tells us about who is actually benefiting from the AI investment wave. Everyone talks about NVIDIA and TSMC when the AI boom comes up, but behind those names, companies like TOCALO are quietly making money in ways that don't get nearly as much attention. There's an old saying about the gold rush. The people who made the most money weren't the miners. It was the ones selling shovels. In the AI investment boom, TOCALO is exactly that shovel seller. Low profile, but sitting right at the center of real structural demand. Finding companies like this over and over again, that's one of the genuine pleasures of following the semiconductor industry. What makes TOCALO's business model particularly strong is that it isn't directly tied to the waves of new equipment investment. Buying new equipment depends on capital spending cycles, but replacing chamber components in equipment already running on the floor, that can't be stopped. Higher utilization accelerates consumption. Even when utilization falls, replacement on existing equipment continues. That asymmetric stability is TOCALO's core strength. That said, it's not without risk. If AI semiconductor investment slows down, equipment utilization drops and consumption slows with it. There's also the risk that new processes and materials could change the specifications of chamber components in ways that require new engineering. Keeping pace with technology shifts over the long run will be the key test of TOCALO's competitive durability. How long will the AI boom last? At least through 2026 and 2027, the CapEx plans from major hyperscalers remain extremely strong. For a consumables and restoration business like TOCALO, as long as this trend holds, the tailwind is real.
At the same time, overseas competition deserves attention. The same chamber component regeneration space has seen entrants like Korea's Comico and local service providers in Taiwan. Service divisions at major equipment makers like Applied Materials and Lam Research could also emerge as competitors. Overseas players may have cost advantages in certain contexts, but the quality, reliability, and deep customer relationships TOCALO has built over decades are not easily replaced. And that's my view.
To wrap up, TOCALO posting its third consecutive record profit is a sign that the AI investment boom is reaching the unsung, behind-the-scenes players, not just the headliners. I personally hope we move toward a world where the kind of foundational technology that quietly holds entire industries together gets properly compensated. The unsung supporters of this industry deserve to be rewarded. That's genuinely my wish. 3 things to watch going forward. First, the sustainability of AI semiconductor investment, how the CapEx plans of major foundries and equipment makers evolve. Second, how quickly TOCALO itself adapts to new processes and materials. Third, raw material procurement strategy. Yttria, a key material in thermal spray coatings, has historically been sourced largely from China, but geopolitical risk is making that route increasingly difficult. TOCALO is actively developing alternative sources, including Australia. How stable that diversification becomes will be critical to cost management over the medium and long term. That's all for today's TOCALO episode of Semiconductor News Decoded. I'll keep bringing you semiconductor news and analysis, so if you found this video interesting, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.